Boom! Welcome into sportsBIT Betting and Insight today, Monday, January 23rd. Pauly and Teddy, big game breakdown. We got 4 games to go over. Duke and NC State, the only undefeated team left in college basketball. It's a write-in game. We'll talk about Gonzaga, and we got the Rockets and the Bucks, and the Clippers and the Hawks. Plus, we look to stay red hot. 4-1 last week with the play of the day. Another basketball pick, money time, before we get out of here as well. All right, bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Well, let's just start here, Teddy. Championship Sunday. What a run it was for the favorites here in the playoffs, with the 2 favorites getting the money yesterday, 8-2 against the spread.
Yeah, I mean, we have to call it what it is, Pauly. This is the most boring playoffs in modern NFL history. I mean, it really is. All 8 wins from the favorites during this postseason run, as you mentioned, 8-2 against the spread. All 8 of them came by 13 points or more, and a lot of them in non-competitive games. And, of course, the 2 entertaining games, there was one good game, Packers-Cowboys. Wasn't good for my pocket, but was an entertaining game. The other one, the Steelers didn't even score a touchdown. I mean, it was a pretty one-sided game. Just Pittsburgh didn't score touchdowns, and that was the 2 competitive games in all the playoffs. But yesterday, one of the bigger sharp square divides you'll ever see when it came to the opener. The Falcons closed -6.5 at Penny and -6.5 at Cantor. And then you look at the square books, the books that cater to recreational players. They're -4 at SIA or 4.5 at Bovada. Pat Steelers was much closer to 50-50 in terms of both sharp and square support. But when it came to Atlanta, Green Bay, books that cater to the public, they cleaned up on that game, Pauly. Books that cater to wise guys took a bath.
Yeah, look how low the money line was on the Packers.
Oh, yeah. And again, the Packers, basically at the close, I graded it Green Bay +6 is the consensus. There were plenty of 6.5s out there. On the money line, at that number, they were +200. The Steelers were a higher money line. They were +210, +220, and the closer was lower. They were 5.5, even 5 in some spots. And then the books that cater to the recreational players, SIA had Green Bay money line +150 at the close. That's telling you all you need to know. In other words, to make a short story long, the public was betting on the Packers to win and on the Steelers to cover. Of course, both of those ended up being wrong.
Yeah, a lot of professional money on the Atlanta game under, which, more on that in a second, had no business going over. And then you saw money come in on the New England game under as well. And somehow, some way, both go over.
Yeah, I mean, there was a legitimate sharp square divide on both totals, and the public did much better here. They won the Falcons-Packers over. And the wise guys, they pounded that under. It was down as low as 59 offshore on game day. Meanwhile, it closed 62 at Bovada. The Patriots total also got bet down offshore 51 down to 49.5. And, of course, that last touchdown for Pittsburgh, getting in the end zone with 3.5 minutes left. Same story with Atlanta, Green Bay. No interest whatsoever in watching either one of those ball games. Nobody's watching either one of them in the fourth quarter unless you have a bet on the total. That's the only reason to be watching, and they know it, and we know it too, Pauly.
Yes, Packers were a bad bet. That thing was over early, converting on 3rd down. Atlanta, Green Bay couldn't get off the field. Atlanta had 20 first downs in the first half. Julio had 9 for 180. They spread it around with Sanu. They spread it around like they always do, 24-0 at the half. And then on their second play of the second half, Jones houses it on a short pass that he takes to the end zone. 31-0 early third quarter for the Falcons.
Yeah, all garbage time. And again, the offense had 1 punt when they had 44 points. They went 5 of 6 in the red zone. Scoring touchdowns. Jones was a man among boys. Let's talk about Mohamed Sanu. He had that nice TD catch. He also ran from scrimmage out of the Wildcat. 7 different receivers caught a pass of 15 yards or more. How about these numbers, Pauly? Matt Ryan in the postseason, 53 of 75, 730 yards, 7 touchdowns, no interceptions. That's against the Seahawks and the Packers. That's pretty good. Kyle Shanahan, who's taken, Matt Ryan's been good. Matt Ryan's never been this good. Kyle Shanahan, very impressive. And of course, Green Bay didn't cover anything. They didn't cover the side. They didn't cover the game. They didn't cover the second half. Nothing. But and a teaser killer as well for the Packers. Not to mention all of those Le'Veon Bell props. Talk about that, Pauly.
Yes, everyone had Green Bay on a teaser as well, so you had to throw it all in the drawer, as Jimmy would like to say, and I think that was good for the books. He'll run it down coming up tomorrow. You think Elway wants a mulligan How the hell did Jacksonville and Denver pass on this guy? And a friend of the show, Joe Fortenbaugh, tweeted, Shanahan should ask York for $10 million a year. What's he going to do, hire Tom Cable? I mean, how do you not hire this guy when you see how good this offense is?
I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. We've seen many great offensive coordinators not turn out to be great head coaches. Mr. McCarthy in Green Bay is probably a current one you can put in that department. Norv Turner, man, that guy can call a play. Do you want him coaching your team? No. So just because someone's an excellent play designer and play caller doesn't mean that they're going to be a great head coach. Let's not put the cart before the horse when it comes to Kyle Shanahan.
Well, I think I'd rather take him than some of these other guys. And you hire Vance Joseph. What were they, 29th in total defense in Miami? I thought Dan Quinn had a good comment after the game that the loss to Kansas City was key, but they became more focused. They realized every play matters. There was some fluke plays in that game, the 2-point conversion, and since then they were taken off, and they're in the Super Bowl now. Well, they will meet the Patriots, Belichick and Brady back for the 7th time. Trey Wingo, good stat here. The Patriots are 16-0 the last 2 years when Dion Lewis plays. And we talked about it on Friday's show, Teddy, that zone defense and Brady's success against Tomlin carved them up again.
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. In 7 career games, Tom Brady versus Mike Tomlin's defense, Tom Brady, 22 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And it was just more of the same on Sunday. But both games felt like coaching mismatches. This one, the attention to detail from Belichick just impresses me over and over again. He does 1,000 little things right. How did they get that stop from 1st and goal or from the 1-yard line before halftime? I don't know if another coach does that. Every defensive assignment was perfect for 3 plays for the field goal, just like on the final play versus the Seahawks in the Super Bowl. What about the flea flicker? Did you see that coming? I didn't see that coming. Or the way they use their timeouts. They use their timeouts perfectly around the 2-minute warning to give Brady a chance for halftime. That chance didn't pan out, but it was perfect execution. Those are the type of things that Bill Belichick does that Tomlin and Todd Haley, well, they didn't do so well.
A reporter asked Tomlin after the game, are you allergic to quarterback sneaks? He said no, they wouldn't do it inside the 1-yard line. And you mentioned Hogan, they practiced that flea flicker all week. 9 for 180, 2 touchdowns. Patriots signed him to an offer sheet. The Bills didn't match it. What were they thinking? Belichick really liked him. He had a monster game, the kid from Monmouth. I mean, he has 180, Edelman has 118. Spread them out and throw. Brady picks them apart.
Well, did you see the tweet from Pro Football Focus? The Steelers blitzed Tom Brady 6 times in that ballgame. He completed all 6 of those passes for 108 yards and a touchdown. And look at the reverse. All right, you have Todd Haley, going against his former boss. The Steelers Steelers failed in the red zone last week against another one of his former teams in Kansas City. They closed the season 1 of 7 in the red zone the last 2 games. What do you think of that 4th down fade call, Pauly? When Pittsburgh, they got 1 chance. You got to get a touchdown. All right, you have 1 play. If you have any chance to win this game, you got to score here. That bizarre 4th down fade, that play might work 1 time in 10 against that D, Pauly. Maybe 1 in 20. Haley, bad play calling. I don't blame Tomlin. That's on the offensive coordinator.
I had a bigger problem with right before half. It's 3rd and goal, and they throw a 3-yard pass. Even if we still would have been short of the end zone. That didn't make any sense at all, what they were doing there, and they have to settle for the field goal. All right, Super Bowl 51, February 5th from Houston, 6:30 Eastern. What do you think of the open? What they opened there, and some more money came in on the over in this one.
Yeah, and we're going to show up 3 graphics right here. We're going to show one with the pinnacle openers, and you can take a look at that. Penny open, pick 'em, and 56.5. And the market said to that. And all the money starts pouring in on New England and the over. And then, once Penny takes the hit, and all the money's come on New England and the over, then bang, everyone else starts to open. Westgate, 3 and 57.5, moves to 58. All right, William Hill, 3 and 58. They don't even move at all. So it's pretty clear now the line is settled, and it didn't take long for that line to settle. 3, Patriots -3, 58.5. We got some great quotes from around Las Vegas. You want to read a couple of these, Pauly, or you want me to go?
Patrick Everson at Covers. No surprises here, Jay Cornegay said. He tweeted this. After Atlanta's impressive woodshedding to the Packers, we're thinking New England 2.5. New England looks just as impressive, so 3 it is. And David Purdom, ESPN. The Falcons began the season 100-1 long shots to win the Super Bowl. Could be 150 to 1 in mid-September. Remember, they lost week 1 at home to Tampa Bay, and they couldn't stop anything in that game.
Yeah, and let's see. According to William Hill, they took 184 bets on Atlanta to win the Super Bowl at odds of 100 to 1 or greater. There's liability out there. The Patriots, they opened 5 to 1. They remain the consensus favorite throughout the season. So while there are a lot more bets on New England, the liability not so great when you're only paying out 5 to 1 versus 100 to 1, and in that range. Same story with Scott Kaminsky from the Greek, thegreek.com, talking about the Super Bowl line. Quote, "We figure let's just open 3 and let the smart guys tell us if it's too low or too high. Before the New England game started, I would have said I think the public will be all over Atlanta no matter what the number is. But New England looks so good, I'm not sure who the public will bet, but I know they will play the over for sure." Also worth noting, the 6th time that the team that led in scoring will meet the team that allowed the fewest points. Atlanta, the best offensive team, New England, the best defensive team. The team with the better defense has won 4 of the first 5 previous meetings.
So it's a record total. We got 2 great quarterbacks. It should be a aerial circus. Do you expect a record handle?
Wouldn't shock me at all to see a significant handle. They're not going to get the handle they would if it was Rodgers versus Brady. It's not Patriots-Packers. It's Patriots-Falcons. But you know the direction the handle keeps going, Pauly. It's going up and up and up. And I would expect, just as we saw a record handle last year, we'll approach or exceed a record handle again for the 2017 Super Bowl, at least here in Nevada.
One bad beat, if you had any Bell props over. You were cooked early. You ever make a bet like that where the guy gets hurt that soon and you don't have a shot?
I like betting those unders more than over. So generally, guy gets hurt, I'm feeling pretty good about that type of wager.
Wow, that was it for all the Bell props out there. Big, I saw the receiving yards, some big steam there, and also the rushing yards as well. No shot early in the game. Up next, big game breakdown. 2 in the NBA and 2 in college. Plus, let's make it 5 out of 6 with the play of the day on sportsBIT. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Do your research before you bet. Check out our ratings guide to see which books have the best ratings and sign-up bonuses. Open up several accounts. Shop for lines at SBRodds.com. Always be ahead of the game.
Back on sportsBIT Betting Insight today. Follow us on Twitter at Pauly Howard at Teddy_covers. Big game breakdown. Let's start in the association. As always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Clippers hit the road to take on the Hawks. No line. Small chance Blake Griffin plays. Teddy's power-rated number, Atlanta, 10.5 if there's no Blake Griffin. One of the most obvious handicapping notions anyone could state, the Clippers miss CP3. But the markets haven't been able to come close how to power rate this team without him because it's Austin Rivers and Crawford jacking threes, and they refuse to pass the ball.
Look at the numbers. The numbers are pretty clear right now. And, of course, that 10.5 might seem a little bit high. That's just my power number. No idea what the market's going to do. But without Chris Paul, the markets haven't come close to gauging how bad the Clippers have been. Look at the numbers. 0-8 straight up. 1-7 against the spread. They failed to cover the number by an average of 9 points per game. That's the average. They're not even close. And, of course, not only do they not have Chris Paul, and probably not having great Blake Griffin, and if they do get Griffin, it's going to take a couple of games for Griffin to get his legs underneath him and get acclimated and back in the rotations. Oh, by the way, they just left for a really brutal road trip. They hadn't left California in the entire month of January before losing at Denver on Saturday night. Now, 10 of their next 11 are going to be on the road. They have 2 separate trips to the East Coast. They're going to go east and then back west and then back east, all leading up to the All-Star break. So the schedule's getting tough just at the wrong time for LA. I think Griffin's going to play at some point on this trip, but no specific timetable yet for when he's going to play. There's a chance, as you mentioned, he could go this evening.
And Jamal Crawford needs a break, but they've got to give him extra minutes now. He's 37 at the end of March, and he's playing like a guy that turns 37 in a couple of months. You look at this graphic, as I talked about, the last 6 games overall, 11 of 58, 0 for 15 from 3. I mean, this guy's an assassin. He's deadly shooting the ball, but all the issues with when CP3's out because he can't shoot, and Rivers as well, at least Crawford's struggling. And here's Austin Rivers after they were embarrassed in Denver. Quote, you want to fix it, but when the bleep is happening, it's hard to fix. You have to take a step back and learn from it. We let the little things bother us tonight. Once that gets going, you start making more mistakes, end quote, and they were run out in that one.
They sure were. But remember, last week, on air, we were telling you just how lifeless the Hawks were at Detroit. Their entire starting lineup got out-rebounded by Andre Drummond. They may have turned the corner this past weekend. They certainly turned things around. Paul Millsap, a monster weekend. He's been the most consistent Hawk all year, and he brought the spark. A 102-93 win over Chicago, and followed it up with a 110-93 win over Philly. And both those wins, and particularly the one against Philadelphia, particularly impressive. That was their 5th game in 7 nights. They played like they were fresh. They came out strong in the first half. They came out strong again in the second half, and they closed out the fourth quarter on a run. And of course, Millsap has certainly been a monster during this stretch at home. More than 59 minutes, 36 points, 19 boards. The team plus 50 with him on the floor and minus 24 when he was not on the floor, Pauly. Clearly, Millsap was a difference maker for Atlanta the last couple of ball games.
Good game there, and great job by Millsap. They were actually shopping him a couple weeks ago. Game number 2, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Rockets and the Bucks. Rockets 5, 223 the total in Milwaukee. They just played last week. Good bounce back by the Rockets. Lost at home Friday to the Warriors. Then they went on the road back-to-back and finally beat Memphis. They ran them out as well. Still Ryan Anderson battling the flu. He stretches the defense. I mean, there's guys who just shoot on the line. He shoots from the parking lot, so they really need him. But Eric Gordon's been a big key to this team. And when he gets going and knocking down the threes, this team is unguardable.
Well, the thing that's amazed me about Houston is it's a terrible setting for the Rockets. I wonder if they're impervious to terrible settings. Remember, this is their 12th game in 18 days. The 11th court change during that span. It's their 5th game in 7 nights. But, hey, they closed out a four games in 5 nights stretch by blowing out Memphis. They blew them out. They went by 24 on the road on Saturday. Sam Decker got his first start of the season and scored a career-high 30. When Sam Decker's scoring 30 points, he could start again for Ryan Anderson tonight. But the Rockets, they keep showing depth. Clint Capella now being worked back in the rotation. He scored 27 points and had 16 boards in, about 36 minutes of the 2 weekend games. I don't take teams like Houston in spots like this. I can't. You recognize the spot, and you recognize that the markets may not adjust to it enough. But this Rockets team, man, the spots haven't seemed to bother them. Whereas Milwaukee, the spot's a little bit different for them. There might be a sense of urgency from Milwaukee this evening.
Yep. The meeting last week, Houston was laying 6.5. They won 111-92. Gordon was huge, hit 7 threes off the bench. Jason Kidd, quote, "They played harder than us." Anytime in this league when someone played harder than you, it's going to be hard to win. You have to give Houston credit. They played last night in Miami, came out here and hit us first. Their intent was to be aggressive early. They won that battle, end quote. It got worse from there. 0-3 straight up in ATS on the road trip. And then what happened with Parker got benched? Because I think he told the media something he wasn't supposed to. I don't know what the hell happened there.
Yeah, it's a little bit dicey right now for Milwaukee, okay? On this road trip, as you mentioned, 0-3 straight up, 0-3 against the spread. They lost to the spread by 45.5 points. No game was closer to the spread than 12.5 points. So they got blown out by double digits ATS in all of those ball games. Now, the final game, Kidd shook up the starting lineup. He put in Dellavedova for Brogdon. He put up Thon Maker for Jabari Parker. And it didn't help. Now, Kidd declined to talk about it was supposedly was a violation of breaking a team rule or something of the sort. But there was a significant players-only meeting following a loss, one of the losses at Orlando on Friday. And supposedly, it was not a kumbaya meeting. These guys were getting after it a little bit, and it got heated. And Parker said some things perhaps that he shouldn't have said, and he talked to the media about it, saying it wasn't well received when he expressed his point of view in the meeting, and then he was benched last time. It's real dicey for Milwaukee right now. This team that was bet on all the way in December, not so much here in January, and tonight's game for me is a watch and learn. Not a game I'm going to have any action on, Pauly, but if the Bucks show up here, it means something. And if they don't show up here, it means something moving forward, in my opinion.
The Bucks show up, it's going to the moon. It's going to be a ton of points scored in that one, and that will go over, as you say, the total. We'll go get to the college up next. Duke and NC State, and the only undefeated team left in college basketball, Gonzaga, with a write-in game, a weird spot, a home and home against Portland. Plus the play of the day on sportsBIT, betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
That's right, the 8th annual SBR Forum Bash will be held at the breathtaking all-inclusive Hard Rock Hotel in Punta Cana on Super Bowl weekend. Join Natalie Rydstrom and the Odds Couple as they mingle with SBR pros and have fun under the sun. Stay tuned for video coverage of Bash activities, including a $5,000 poker tournament sponsored by uwager.eu. Only on SBR, your sportsbook authority since 1999.
All right, back on SportsBIT, Betting Insight today. Big game breakdown continues. College hoops now, as always, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. This is a write-in game. It's a makeup of a game that was postponed. It's at 5 o'clock Pacific, betting number 549 and 550. Gonzaga is laying 24 on the road, 142.5 the total. The Zags are 19-0. And again, they just played, and they did not play well on Saturday. They beat Portland 73-52. They never led by more than 23. A few didn't like how they played either. Afterwards, quote, it was a choppy game. Portland did a nice job, especially being undermanned. They came in, fought us, playing hard, physical, beating us to some balls. But a 20-point win at home was nothing to feel good about, end quote, in a unique spot, Teddy, where you got a home and home here because of the postponement.
Yeah, just a brief change. A 20-point win at home is nothing to not feel good about. So few wasn't too worried about that performance. Again, they sleptwalked through the game, but that's what you can do against Portland. Nigel Williams-Goss is a question mark for the Zags tonight. He's got a bone bruise on his hip. I would imagine that they may sit him tonight, hold him back for Thursday's home game against San Diego. Not that they need him for that one either, but the guy's banged up. You don't need to put him on a short day because, as you mentioned, they played on Saturday. It's a short turnaround revenge spot, but there's no revenge when the Pilots play the Zags. All it is the same game on a different floor. It really is. There are some unique scheduling circumstances when it comes to conferences like the WCC. This one of those intriguing scenarios only because the one game got canceled earlier. But, when you talk about the Zags missing players, Portland, they lost the only guy that they absolutely couldn't lose. Alex Wintering, 19.5 points per game, 5.5 assists, 4.5 rebounds. They lost it for the season in the loss at San Fran last Thursday. Yeah,
then they lost to St. Mary's 74-33. It was 37-9 at half. So energy could be an issue as well without this guy. As I don't know what Terry Porter does, knowing that Gonzaga can name their score tonight. Your best players out, and they've really struggled the last week or so.
Well, Terry Porter, quote, "Sometimes when you lose your leader like that, it wipes you out. But the guys responded well with a great effort." That was against Gonzaga over the weekend, a game they lost by 19. So he's saying they responded well and had a great effort in a game they lost by 19 points. We knew it was going to be a tall task. I love the way we fought and got after it. Okay, the energy might have been good without Wintering, but the execution was bad, Pauly. 14 turnovers, only 4 assists. And you talk about some of the losses this team has suffered. They scored 9 points and a half against St. Mary. That was with Wintering. They lost at San Fran they scored 50 in that game. They lost at Santa Clara 70-42. These are all in January. So personally, it's hard for me to put my money on teams like that. If you're going to struggle to reach 50 against a team like Gonzaga, no. Unless the spot's exceptional, it'd be favored to pass. But of course, no bargains here, laying 24 with Gonzaga. It's an interesting game to talk about, but not much of one from a wagering perspective, in my opinion.
Final Four team, and also they already played St. Mary's and hammered them at home. So if they can get past St. Mary's on the road, they will go undefeated into March in the tournament, as Gonzaga should run the table. Last one, live odds, sportsbookreview.com. Duke, NC State. Dukie's 16, 162. The total turning point for Duke here, Teddy?
Yes, I really think so. They had that full week off at home after those back-to-back road losses. And remember, they trailed Miami by a double digits at halftime. And they opened up the second half on a 22-1 run, won the game by double digits, erasing that deficit. And, you wonder, a young team with some offensive skills, but they got a little soft. They got tough to win a game in which they didn't shoot particularly well. Only 5 made 3-pointers. Of course, the return of Emile Jefferson up front, a real key for that team. Jeff Capel after the game, quote, "We needed life desperately. Those guys brought it, and they brought everyone," the crowd, along with them. Jason Tatum, the Frosh, talking about the crowd. I think that was my first real taste of Cameron. It was so loud.
And NC State has really struggled on the road. They opened 2-5 in the ACC, 0-3 straight up ATS on the road, losing the spread by 59 points, 19.7 per game. Can they handle the defensive pressure? Dead last in the ACC in offensive efficiency and turnover rate, turning the ball over on 20% of all possessions. They have talent, but they don't have experience, Teddy.
Well, yeah, I mean, and of course those are ACC numbers you're given, but when you're turning the ball over more than 20% of the time in ACC play, that's not good. That's not good for offensive efficiency. That's not good for turnover rate, and that's not good when you're going into Cameron and the crowd is going to be insane. You know, the two freshmen, Dennis Smith at the point guard, the 7-footer, Omar Yurtseven. I'm pronouncing his name. I'm botching his name. I apologize. Yurtseven, I don't know. They're both considered possible one-and-done type players, but I'm not convinced that either one is going to actually be a one-and-done line player. Smith has been real good. He's got the tools to compete, averaging, close to 19 points per game, 6.5 assists, 2.5 steals. But first trip to Cameron is never easy for anybody, especially for a frosh sensation type point guard like Dennis Smith has been for the Wolfpack.
Yes, all right, very good. Tomorrow, Jimmy Vaccaro recap how the books did, early look at the Super Bowl, his thoughts on some of the props as well. I'm going to get him to tell that refrigerator Perry story as well. He's sick of telling it, but he's going to tell it again. Now, 4-1 last week. We're riding the Warriors. Money time, play of the day. We're going to lay it again, Teddy. What are we doing?
Game number 520. Let's take a look at Duke, minus the 16. Look at the crowd. I'm expecting a rough welcome for the two frosh sensations for the Wolfpack. Lay it with Duke. That team changed their season with that 22-1 run. Doubled up the second half against the Hurricanes. Duke, minus the 16. Game number 520. That is our play of the day.
Yes, we will see you tomorrow. And don't forget, every Thursday night, 8 Pacific, we got the chat. We'll take all your questions, the Google Hangout. We look forward to that. We love your participation and feedback, whether on the Views, the Google Hangout, or on Twitter. We'll talk to you then on sportsBIT, Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.